Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Hope I am audible. Very good morning, and thank you, Coltrans, for giving us this opportunity. It's always a pleasure to be in Bali, and thank you very much for attending this morning session. I know it's pretty early in the morning for some of you. Today we'll be talking about evolution of buying trends in some of the key buying nations, especially the Northeast Asia and the Southeast Asian markets. But before I actually proceed into the topic, I wanted to take this opportunity to discuss a key methodology change that we did earlier this year. That is because a lot of people wanted to know what exactly was happening behind the methodology change. If you are a subscriber to the Cold Trader International, I am sure you would have noticed that we discontinued the FOB Richards Bay 6000 NAR price and the corresponding CFR India 6000 NAR pricing as well. So basically, we were tracking this market pretty closely for the past couple of years, and we find that the liquidity in the standard specification Richards Bay 6000 NAR is coming down quite sharply. We see around 10 to 20% of liquidity in the spot market currently for 6000 NAR. India is one of the major buyers of South African coal, and we see that most of the Indian buyers have moved towards the off-spec coal or like the 55 NAR or the 48 NAR. So basically, we thought it best to move away from this index. But as a replacement, what we have done is we are trying to give something much more liquid in the market, and this is a derived price. Basically, the Richards Bay 6000 NAR, we have the CFR India 55 NAR price. So what we have done is we are trying to remove the freight component and adjust the CV and sulfur and ash differentials to arrive at the 6000 NAR pricing. I'm not going into too much detail on this price assessment, but if you have any questions on this, you are always welcome to approach me or my colleagues sitting down at the back. And you can also write to me about your concerns or feedback. Your feedback is always very much appreciated on this. So coming back to the topic, Northeast Asia markets are pretty much evolving. I recently heard the Japanese buyers settle their annual contracts with the Australian producers at around $85, which is almost like a $10 higher than the spot market price. Japanese usually pay quite a bit of premium to secure their cargoes with the Australian suppliers. But as the buying pattern evolves and more power plants come online, and Japan gets possibly decentralized going forward, we believe that the Japanese buyers will be coming into the spot market, and they would be requiring something which is reflective of the spot market pricing. So keeping that in mind, we launched a new price called the Northeast Asia Thermal Coal Index, which is otherwise called the NEAT Coal Index, very easy to remember. But this, we are deviating a bit from the standard specification that the Japanese buys currently. We are basing this price on the 5750 NAR material. We also talk to a lot of shipping agencies and brokers and operators to get as accurate freight rate as possible from Australia to Japan to get this NEAT price at an accurate level. But why 5750? Why not 6000? So 5750 going down to 55 NAR is pretty liquid in the spot market. It's a very popular grade, as all of you know. From Australia, it goes to China, South Korea, it goes to Philippines, Vietnam. So it's a pretty liquid grade, and it has more counterparties. It comes in larger vessels like the Cape sizes or the Panamaxes. But if you take the spot price for the 6,000 NR market, its liquidity is pretty low and trades on screen, but sometimes the counterparties are not really known. And it trades in smaller parcels like the 25,000 metric tons. So we thought it's best to have some price based on the 5 NAR rather than go for the 6,000 NAR pricing. So here you can see we have a good 4-5 month data now on the neat coal index, which captures the spot market events and accurately reflects the price whenever something happens. Like we had low January trading activities, so the prices were quite weak at that moment. But going into February, there were a lot of Japanese buyers buying through tenders that was reflected in the prices that we have. And also, as the freight rates increased by March, April, so that price also got reflected in our neat coal assessment. So you can see it's pretty active market. It's pretty accurately reflecting the spot market activities. Now, one more reason why we wanted to launch this prize was because of possibility of Japan going into the spot market more often. We see JERA, which was formed by Chubu and Tokyo Electric. We feel that as the Japan market gets decentralized more and more, spot trading activity is expected to happen. And of course, going into the Japan's energy mix, by 2030, coal will still account for a quarter of their fuel mix. And we see a lot more power plants getting added in the next few years. Basically, we want to give something to the market which is very reflective of the spot market activity, and I think NEAT fits the bill very neatly, right? Now, one more market that has been pretty much in focus is South Korea. South Korea has been a very stable buyer. They are procuring the cargoes at. I'll get back to this slide shortly. So, this is the overall South Korean coal imports. And what we have done is we have plotted the pricing of various grades to showcase how the South Korean buying patterns change as thermal coal prices vary. Now coming back to this slide, I think I still remember last year South Korea bought quite a bit of 4-6 NAR cargoes from Indonesia, and they were able to procure those cargoes at pretty good prices. I still remember that we were assessing the spot market for 5,000 GAR FOB Kalimantan at around $38 FOB, while Korean buyers were able to procure cargoes at around 33 FOB. So it was pretty competitive market. It was pretty oversupplied market. So South Korea went on to buy quite a bit of these cargoes from Indonesia. However, during the latter half of the year, when the thermal coal prices began to rise, and the differential between the various origins, like Australia and Russia and Indonesia, they began to narrow. Like usually there was a gap of around $10 between Australia and Indonesia prices, but it narrowed down to around $3 to $4 going towards the latter half of the year. So that is the reason why we see South Korean bituminous imports increased and tilted more towards regions like the Australia and Russia. I think for Indonesia, low CV coal is their strength, but when it comes to higher grade coal, Indonesia faces a lot of competition from origins like Australia, South Africa, and we have seen Colombian coal coming into Asia. We have seen Russian coal. We have seen Mozambique coal coming into Asia. So there are a lot of options for buyers, and currently we see South Korea showing a lot of interest in buying Colombian coal. So basically, they have a long-term contract of affreightment with shipping for their vessels. So what they do is they try to send their vessels to Colombia to get the cargoes, which will take like approximately 2 months of employment for the vessels. So in the meantime, they can take advantage of the spot freight rates, which are pretty much low compared to what they are paying at the moment. Again, another significant market, which is Taiwan. Again, we see a similar trend happening in Taiwan as well, where Indonesia is losing a bit of a market share in this market as the prices increase. More and more Taiwanese are looking at Australian or Russian coal. In fact, for an example, nowadays, if you talk to any Indian buyers and try to sell them 5,000 GAR Indonesian coal, which is currently priced at around 54, 55 FOB, I'm sure Indian buyers would say probably I will procure the cargo from South Africa, which is the 48 NAR, which is much better in calorific value, and I would get it at 54 CFR. Right? So you see, there is a huge difference and arbitrage opportunities for various buyers. So similar cases, similar situation in Taiwan as well. We are looking at the bituminous coal imports, where Australia is gaining market share over Indonesia, and Russia is also eating into the market share for Indonesia as well. So again, Taiwan is another buyer of subbituminous coal, but of course we have seen that as prices go up, Taiwan usually tries to get higher calorific value from Australia or Russia as well as Colombia now. So much for the Northeast Asia, and there is a lot of focus on Southeast Asian markets as well. I remember a couple of years ago when we were at the same event, the suppliers that I was talking to, they were all very eager to know what are the alternate markets they have, because Chinese and Indian demand had slowed considerably. So there were a lot of options for suppliers as well, like the Vietnam or the Philippines or Thailand for that matter. But there was not much of clarity on how much of this demand would be sustainable, whether demand would improve going forward or whether it will be stagnant. So what I've done is I've put together a few slides on all these key markets like the Philippines, Vietnam, and Thailand. Because of time constraint, I cannot go through them in detail. But yeah, even according to International Energy Agency, Southeast Asia markets are pretty much the main driver of coal usage going up to 2030. Here we can see the coal demand is still expected to go up despite a lot of push to add renewable energies. Coal, as you have heard the previous speaker say, that coal is very cheap in terms of availability and pricing. So that would be taken advantage by the Southeast Asian markets as well. Now, Philippine market has grown quite considerably. In 2014, imports were like roughly around 15 million. It has gone up to 20 million. And here's a very interesting chart, and I would like to thank my colleague Mia for putting this together. It's a very interesting chart. Here we can see up to 2030, there is the supply-demand situation, and the bottom right is how the industrial and power sector are expected to grow going up to 2030, and To the left, we have the domestic and the import prediction. So we can see that import predictions are quite high. It's expected to grow up to 50% from the 2020 level. So it's a pretty key market for Indonesia as well. Indonesia has been one of the major suppliers to Philippines. I think it was the sole supplier to Philippines until 2014. But once the freight rates weakened and the arbitrage between Indonesian and Australian and Russian coal improved, more and more Philippines buyers went in for Australian and Russian coal. So that is where again Indonesia is losing a bit of market share. Now, this is one of the reasons why there was supply tightness in Australia as well last year. I'm not going into much detail because it has been dealt with very detailed view by my previous speakers yesterday, if you have heard. But when it started raining in Indonesia, again, people couldn't get cargoes in Australia as well. That is because of this reason, the Australia market is expanding its market share in all these by marginal tons here and there, 3-4 million here and there. So all these tonnages are leading to supply tightness in Australia as well. Now, another growth market is Thailand, where imports are around 22 million metric tons, and they are pretty much dependent on natural gas for their power production. But going up to their energy mix in the coming years, which is up to 2036, they are expected to add close to 60,000 megawatts of new capacities. And we expect around 20 to 21% of this capacity additions to be thermal coal. So it's again a growing market, although the volumes are not too significant compared with major buyers like India, China, and Japan. Here we can see there is a lot of push on renewable energy, definitely. And thermal coal fired power plant additions slow a bit, but it's not stopping, right? It's still growing compared to 2026, going up to 2036. So we believe that thermal coal usage will continue in Asia because of easy availability and more coal-fired capacities coming online. So what does it mean for Indonesia? Indonesia usually is a low CV coal producer. It's got the highest reserves of low CV in the world. And then more and more power plants are coming up based on a lower grade coal, whether be it Philippines or Thailand. So Indonesia is expected to continue to be a significant supplier to all these markets, and not to forget Vietnam, which has seen a great growth story in the past few years. Around 2013 or 14, the imports were like 2 to 3 million metric tons per annum. But suddenly we see there is a big surge in imports from Vietnam. It's almost like 1 million metric tons every month. So which is very significant, very huge. Vietnam itself is a big producer of anthracite. They export coal to China. But the production hasn't been able to keep up with growing demand, so they turned net importers in 2015, and then we have seen tremendous growth in this. Again, we expect coal to play a major role in Vietnamese fuel mix as well. Although there is a lot of renewable capacity additions, most of the Southeast Asian nations and overall in Asia, many countries have agreed to the Paris COP21 climate change, and then they want to reduce carbon emissions. But that doesn't mean that they are not adding renewable energy capacity additions. They are adding. But at the same time, they're also adding coal-fired capacities as well. And in most of these regions, we believe that coal will account for almost more than half of what the power produced in all these regions. Thermal coal will play a major role. So again, yeah, just to conclude my presentation, of course, Indonesia and Australia will definitely continue to play a major role in to these countries, especially whenever there is arbitrage opportunities. Indonesia coal is replaced by Australian coal, but of course, these two countries will definitely continue to play a major role. And as the market becomes more volatile, we feel that there is a strong requirement for a very accurate index where all the market participants have a level playing field and they're able to procure cargoes at prices which are reflective of the spot market demand supply fundamentals. So with that, I conclude my presentation. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, do we have time for questions? Yeah. Yeah. Please, do you have any questions on Slido or anybody wants to? Okay. Oh, yeah. A very interesting question. Thank you for raising that. Unfortunately, I cannot comment on the other index, whichever is in question. But as far as our coal index is concerned, especially the Northeast Asia thermal coal or the NEAT index is concerned, we are pretty much confident about this index because these are prices heard from the market participants on a daily basis. So we track the daily volatility. We have transparent structure in place. We have a very strict methodology in place where we gather information from a balanced makeup of market participants like the buyers, traders, and sellers. And of course, we do publish rationales on why we assess that number at that particular level on any particular day. So it's quite transparent. Our methodology is available on Platts.com for anybody who wants to have a look at our price assessment methodology. So I believe that as I told you earlier, there is a very strong requirement for an index which can accurately reflect spot market value, and I believe NEAT fits that bill very perfectly. Yeah, thank you for that question. Any other? Oh, yes, please.
Just with these changes to the indexes that you're putting up, is there anything on Platts that helps you to adjust backward, to relate it to former indexes that were previously quoted? So if you wanted a continuous price series, you were able to apply, say, the NEAT index, looking backwards. How would you suggest market participants make those adjustments?
You mean you want to adjust back the existing index to see how it fits the... So basically, our NEAT index is very new. It's around 5 months old. So probably we can probably work out a way to see how we can adjust that index going back. But it won't reflect the accurate market fundamentals because what we are assessing right now is on a day-to-day basis. So we know exactly what is happening on any given day. But if we have to go back, then probably I wouldn't see much of a value in that because I don't see it fit the bill correctly. So, but of course, thank you for raising that question. We will definitely take a look at what we can be doing in that regard going forward. Yeah? Thank you. All right. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.